In Lakesh Alakin, what it means is you're another me, or I'm another you. And that was used by the Maya. And so every time you met someone, you had that knowledge of you really me. There was no conflict. I'm another you. So it's a simple philosophy to live by. So firstly, this is the favorite part of meditation because this is where the results come from and what we analyze and sort of the fruits of our labor. The symbolism that comes through, there's different kinds of symbolism and visions, which I'm going to go over now. So firstly, I want to start with one that's on a higher level, that can be perceived quite often, and that's symbols of eyes. So if you see, for instance, eyes all over the room, then you know there is consciousness, higher consciousness or beings that are allowing you to see their eyes. So when you see into a person's soul, you're really looking at their eyes, regardless of their outer form, what they're wearing, what they look like, are they human or they're alien. So you see these eyes, you're looking into their soul, they're looking into you, what a blessing. And if you see a huge big eye, a massive eye that's opening and closing, Spirit's saying to you, well, open your third eye, open the wisdom eye, blink, look into the other world, because you already have this gift. You were initiated in your previous lives, you only need to be shown again. Remove all the dirt from the third eye, activate it, or just get it cleansed, dust it out, and you should start seeing as you meditate. And so what a blessing. If you see a tongue rolling out of the all-seeing eye, so underneath the eye the tongue will roll out, and normally the end, that's symbolical of speaking the truth. So you see the truth and you're able to speak the truth. So it's one thing seeing the truth, and it's quite another thing speaking the truth. So it's seeing wisdom and being able to transmit wisdom. So it takes quite a while though, unless you use your intuition to sometimes understand some of these symbols or what you're really seeing here. So always good to see eyes, very positive sign, nothing to be scared of. Now a simple vision is imagine you saw two open hands like this. So what do hands do? They do things. So, and especially if they're white hands or even just open hands. Black hands would be dark, something dark. So we see these two hands look like this, or they're white. So Spirit's saying, well, we've come to give you the gift to help you. We're not just there to observe, we're actually giving you a hand. So whether it's one hand or two. And then you could also see feet shuffling along. So what is Spirit saying there to you? So Spirit's actually talking to you, and this is what we need to start understanding. Spirit's saying, well, I'm going to walk along with you. You're not alone on your journey as you're moving along. So there's that common theme. We're never really alone. There's always someone from us who was close to us from a previous life, a spirit guardian, or someone that is guiding our consciousness, especially when we start to become aware of this process. And even when we're not aware, that's how most of the things get done in the world. Everyone that is doing their particular work is being guided, their thoughts are being influenced, not all the time, but for certain outcomes. So very good to see these symbols. Now we look at a bit of totems that come up often in these psychic circles or your own meditations. So if you had to see a serpent, it would be a very good thing. Now, when we look at dream symbolism, if you saw serpents, snakes in the grass, snakes in the tree, in the front of your house, snakes biting you, well, it's not a very good dream, because snakes in a dream speak of enemies. So is it your neighbor? Is it someone at work? Someone's going to try to do you in some way. So there's a bit of deception there, and it comes with a bit of damage that they do, like the bite of a snake. It's poisonous. So there is someone that's spreading some poison. But now, where we come to in meditation, if you see a serpent, it's the opposite. It means something that's perfect, something that's all wise, all knowing. Serpents and dragons called the Naga, or dragons, as in ancient times. And I'm going to actually do a few posts on that, because that comes up quite often in the matrix. It's something we should know and we should really understand, and should remove the fear of it. The dragons come as teachers for humanity and teachers for disciples, or teachers of the masters. So really rare, but also we can't really say it's rare. Spirit's love is equal for everyone, so they could appear at any time, whether we know it or not. Another totem would be a dove, so you would see a symbol of a dove. So Spirit's really in that energy is showing you, well, I'm with you, but I'm bringing you peace. So peace is a very real thing to experience, something that is as heavy as gold, that is as pure as gold. And once sat and a spirit being channeled this whole lot of wisdom about peace. So I'm going to do a post on that as well. It's very interesting how they see things and how they work in that frame of peace, that they know they're not creating any negative energy. It's a very interesting place to be. We look at bear totems in the native Indian traditions, or in Europe, all around the world. People used to receive totems as bears. So what is the bear? It's something really strong, it's very ferocious, it can protect you, it's come to guide you out of the forests, out of your confusion. So behind the bear sits a totem, but it also, in some ways, also comes as a warning. Normally when you see it, something's coming up, the bear is saying, I'm trying to protect you, there is some kind of danger. Then we get to one of my favorite symbolisms, symbols, and that is of the eagles. So the eagles are quite interesting. If you think of an eagle, why would we see an eagle in a meditation or in a psychic circle? Well, behind the eagle we know the truth, and that is that there is a consciousness behind it. We are only seeing the manifestation of light as they want us to see it, so that we can understand. And the eagle soars above the earth, up in the heavens, above everything, has this sight that can zoom in. So the eagle's really showing you, well, I can take you to places that no one else has. So one example, when I lined, and one night I got into bed, as I was lying there, I saw an eagle. It sort of submerged into my head, into my consciousness, and the next minute it took me off into the spirit world. So the eagles really come to show you, humanity, what we will attain one day, that we can soar as eagles and not be sort of chained to earth and to the illusion of this, our realities. Another example of an eagle, we're in an ayahuasca ceremony, and it seemed like the roof just opened up with light, these rays of light descending down, and in the middle of it was an eagle. And a few other things happened, and as I looked into the light, this spacecraft descended over the ceremony room. It wasn't the usual concrete massive ones, although it was quite big, but it was more metallic in structure and form. And as the inner center circle descended, I was inside the spacecraft and looking upward, and there was a deck on the ground floor, and there was one up there, and everyone was busy with their instruments and things. And they all turned around, looked at me, all greeted me and acknowledged me simultaneously, as they're all telepathic, their thoughts are all streamlined. And so just that overwhelming feeling of being acknowledged, and everything that goes with such an experience. Wasn't the first of such experiences. But just to let you know, the eagles, you know, there's a symbol, where's it really coming from? So if you understand it from that way, it can make a lot of sense. So to move away from totems, wait, I want to do one more. It's coming into my mind now, totem of a frog. So when we look at the frogs in the Maya, this is quite interesting, because we know there is a frog that has ayahuasca on it. So it's got the MDM, anyway, it's got the two aspects of the ayahuasca in it, the MRIs and the DMT part. Exceptionally potent. So they could use a tiny amount of this secretion of the frog to enter a cosmic state of consciousness, or similar to what ayahuasca would offer. So already we see the frog as being something sacred because it's giving us something, allowing us to enter another reality. And when we look at the Maya in particular, there are temples with frogs. There's I'm not sure which one it is, but I think it's I have to think about that. So anyway, this was part of where I was in a past life, and all the rock formations running along the river were carved into frogs. So you can imagine the stream is flowing, and then there's a full moon, and obviously there's frogs croaking in the background, and these frogs are all carved out of rocks. So if your third eye is open and you're in the matrix, everything comes alive. The barrier that separates this world and the next. So the rocks come alive, they would normally anyway, but now they've been carved into a form. So they knew exactly what they were doing. So the symbolism here is that the frog will take us into a higher world or to God. And then it speaks of that transformation or that metamorphosis. So from a tadpole, and then it emerges out of the water like the lotus and goes onto land. You can also have visions of frogs climbing up trees, and the tree symbolizes man. The trunk of the tree is the spinal column, so the frog really is climbing along the spine, in other words showing you that the energy is moving upward so that it can get to a higher level of consciousness. So frogs for the Maya were exceptionally sacred, so when you look at that, the different kinds of symbolism that come with it, that metamorphosis, that transformation, but really trying to take you from this world into the next. But more importantly, frog in Mayan tradition also was symbolical of the rain god Chak, and when you saw him in a vision or you saw the frog, you knew it came as a totem, because you were going to enter another world or going to a higher state of consciousness. So again, another blessing like that coming through. Often in ceremonies or meditations, you see a peacock. So when you're focused on someone, you see a peacock, you know what spirit is showing this totem. Well, the feathers need to open, you need to find yourself, you need to self-realize. And so quite a beautiful vision as well. Sometimes you'll see a vision of someone running through a forest with all these trees. Also, again, quite an easy symbol. We can't see the woods for the trees. So you would need to see where the vision is taking one. Do they get out of the trees? Do they end up on top of the mountain? Do they end up near a stream? Do they get through the trees? The Spirit's saying, well, you may be confused about certain things. We need to sort of get you out of this because it's just all the same scenery all the time. So again, just to remember what Spirit's doing is they're creating this video, this imagery to talk to you. So if you can't hear, because it's easier to see, the hearing becomes a bit more difficult. So I'm telling you something, but I'm showing you a picture and you need to get what I'm saying. And this is really what it comes down to. Just to go off from the symbols in that. So symbols are really also from a higher reality, from the higher spirit world. But you can also see symbols of the past, the present, and the future, or anything that's happening in your life. So, for instance, in the 90s, I think it was around about 96, 97, 8, somewhere around about there, I had this vision of this structure along the coastline and then the waves coming up and flooding it. And then the next minute I saw these men in suits and these snowballs that were all rolling around them. And I didn't quite understand what it meant. And if I focused on it and intuited, you could get the answer. Or sometimes when you're seeing this movie, this vision, you need to see what thoughts are going through your head, because sometimes the thoughts are telling you what you're actually seeing, and that's what's called intuition. It's sort of an inner knowing. So years later, the Fukushima tsunami, and all the Japanese in their suits trying to fix up the mess with the radiation rolling all over them. So really just a symbolical, well, a little bit of an Akashic vision of what's to come in the future, the way Spirit could show me. So very interesting to see how all this comes about. Another interesting thing to show you that it's not all sacred symbols and mean something for you spiritually, not necessarily a past life thing. So if you're focused on someone in a psychic circle and you see an Eskimo appear, and the Eskimo looks really cold. What Spirit's saying, there's a cold front on the way, there could be snow, it's going to get exceptionally cold, and normally like a few days later there comes a cold front and everybody's freezing. So it's just nice to see these little messages and that come through. One of my other favorite totems is the jaguars. You get the black jaguars, you get there's various colors. You get the red path jaguar, which is a black jaguar with red markings on it as it walks along the red path. So what would the path symbolize? The path would symbolize your path that you're walking on and where you're going. If the jaguar is running along in front of you, he's guiding you. I remember stopping on the path, the jaguar was in front of me, it turned around and gave me a big kiss. So that was quite an experience. So the jaguars are also there as protection from the Maya, ancient Maya periods. There to protect you not only on the earth plane but in the spirit world. So behind the jaguar is a being, is a consciousness that is guiding you seamlessly in many, many, many different ways. And then the same can be said for dolphins, for elephants. Elephants also an ancient being that lives very long. So some ancient being that is with you, there to guide you and protect you. When you see in the Matrix into the higher worlds, you'll see a lot of the beings do have trunks like elephants. We know there's Ganesha, Lord Ganesha, the Mayan god Chak, the rain god, the most important deity in all of Mayanism, with his long trunk-like nose. And so there's these things, and when you see and go into higher levels of consciousness, the higher you go, the stranger it becomes. Because it's a different reality than what we're used to in these forms or this illusion. So it gets very, very exciting. Things like a butterfly, what would a butterfly symbolize? Might not necessarily be a totem, might be spirit, just a symbol where Spirit's saying to you, well, the butterfly flies from one flower to the next, sucking up the nectar, that essence. It's not just eating food, there's an energy here. And it's also flying from one flower to the next, symbolize that freedom of expression, but really freedom of new thoughts. So symbolizing new thoughts, wild thoughts coming into your mind, your thoughts are starting to change, there's some kind of metamorphosis going on, you're going to be inspired. And talking about inspiration, let's say if you're walking on a field, in a vision, in your meditation or in the psychic class, and you see these tulips, or these flowers coming up and they open up bright yellow. Well, the yellow symbolizes intuition, so it shows that all of a sudden there's a growth in your intuitive thought. You sort of nose on the phone before they call you. You dream constantly about things that are going to happen. You're constantly seeing visions. You pick up people's thoughts. There's a whole different process that could start going on once the intuitive part of the mind is awakened. It's almost as if some part of you is switching on, and you're realizing that you're becoming more aware of things than what you used to be aware of. Another vision I saw, I was inquiring about someone in particular, and so the vision that I received was, I could see the face and the mouth opening up and all these gold coins pouring out. So it would seem like it's a good vision. But in this case, what it really meant is someone that's very rich in speech. They can lie, they have the gift of the gab. They're just good with words. And so Spirit's basically warning you that this person's devious. They can say anything and we're going to believe them. So again, just showing the wisdom of how Spirit imparts this kind of message without words. I'm going to go over a few other symbols and visions and stuff similar to this in a later episode, but this just to give you an idea at the moment how to work through visions. If you are receiving, there's a multitude of visions, it's limitless, so it does take a bit of time to understand the symbolism. Spirit normally starts with simple things. What could also happen is you could have a simple vision that is like an image or just some picture, or you could see a picture that becomes a movie and you can observe this movie, sometimes, or a lot of the time, it moves exceptionally quick. So it's almost as if you're watching something in fast forward. You need to ask Spirit, or they need to connect with your thoughts to see that you're not receiving it. Ask them to slow it down to a very slow, exceptionally slow vibration, so that we can actually see it in real time. Otherwise, it's just too fast for us. In other words, Spirit can see your whole life in a minute and understand each aspect of it, from the emotional to the mental, everything you went through, all the traumas. And so their brains are much faster than what we can imagine. They're like computers. Imagine AI, imagine something more advanced than that has access, limitless access to wisdom. So when you understand it from that aspect, it starts to make more sense. But I'm definitely going to go over more symbolism, because it's really the essence, it's the fruits of your labor in terms of what you're doing spiritually. So stay tuned for that episode.